Hey, I'm DJ Khaled, and this is what I did last week. It was actually a pretty good week. I did a lot of what I wanted to do throughout the weekdays, and then on the weekend I didn't really play a whole lot. I just sat down and watched some movies and stuff. So I'll jump into the Mythic Plus runs of the week. I did a lot of them on stream on Wednesday, which was on Twitch and YouTube. The VOD is up for that if you're interested. I should be back streaming again this Wednesday at around 12 o'clock Pacific, so if you want to come hang out, say hi, that'd be great. But I was able to get 39 more rating, and I'm ending the week at 2626, which is 2 rating more than I had in Season 1. So one of my goals for Season 2 was to have a higher rating than in Season 1, so check that off the list. The keys on Wednesday were with the guild, so I was able to get my 10 Floodgate done, and that got me my last portal for the season. There was a 10 Theater of Pain we did on Friday that we timed with like 4 seconds left, so that's probably the closest call we've had so far this season. But on stream, there were 2 dungeons that we did. There was an 11 Dark Flame Cleft that we did time. I was pretty stressed out. I didn't know what we were getting into, and it was not that bad, to be honest. I felt like I kept up relatively well. I'll see how difficult it is to pug. I don't know how meta Fury Warriors are, so I don't know how long it's going to take to get into a group. But overall, Dark Flame wasn't that bad, and then the other dungeon we did was a 12 Rookery that we did not time, but we missed it by like 50 seconds. But we had about 1 minute and 15 seconds worth of death, so if we had just one last death, we would have got that. This week I was trying to focus a little bit more on my rotation. I wasn't able to find the comment from last week, but one person had specifically mentioned that my rage management needed work, and that was definitely something that I was keeping an eye on this week. And it did really seem to help me because, one, it helped me stay in the rhythm of my rotation, but also seemed like it did increase my DPS a little bit. I still do have pulls where I'd like to see my DPS go up, but yeah, overall just a much better week. I didn't really have the ups and downs I saw last week where I was happy one pull and then frustrated the next. I talked about this a little bit last week, but one of the things, especially this week, and even right now as I'm making this video, I'm a little bit torn as to where I want to spend my time, because now the question is, like, I can try and find 11s and 12s, maybe even 13s to group up for, but I also want to do 10s just at least to get my mythic vault for the week, and I would like to do at least 8, so that way I can have a full row of options. But what I've been finding in the last couple of weeks is that I'll do about 8 to 10 dungeons, and then I'm kind of burnt out for the rest of the week. I don't really want to do more than that. So I'm struggling to figure out where I want to spend my time before I get burnt out. And I don't know, I'm kind of torn as to, like I said, where I want to play. But one of the things I don't really have to worry about now is my gear, because my warrior got about 3 item levels more, and he's ending the week at 666.5. This was the first week where I had mythic pieces in the vault, which was very exciting to see. I had a really hard time picking though between a heroic neck piece from the raid row. This had my priority stats, but it wasn't my best in slot neck. And then I had 2 mythic pieces that I was interested in, the mythic tier shoulders and the hands that were from the dungeon row. As I was looking through this stuff, I realized that the neck that I currently had equipped was a 638 from Season 1, so I thought the neck would be the best to take, but in Sims, the vault neck was only about like a 0.3% upgrade. The tier hands were something like a 0.7% increase and are my best in slot, along with the shoulders that were also better than the neck in Sims, but worse than the hands. I spent some time agonizing over it and just ended up taking the mythic tier hands because I said I'll just farm the best in slot neck from Cinderbrew. And it's a good thing too because I did run a 10 Cinderbrew and I ended up getting the strapped rescue keg neck, which is my best in slot and almost a 4% upgrade in Sims. So that all worked out pretty well. Then from the raid this week, I was able to replace my champ boots with the same boots but heroic track. And then I had enough crests to upgrade all my pieces of gear fully, which was very nice. I also remembered that the finger and neck sockets are purchasable through the auction house and not from the vault. So I bought a few Magnificent Jewelers settings and gems to put in those sockets. And then as I was doing that, I realized that I'm actually only 2 pieces of gear away from all best in slot, which was one of my other goals for this season. My cloak is one thing that needs to get replaced from the one in Floodgate, and my boots need to be replaced by the ones from Rick Reverb, and then I'm all bizzed out. After that, I also had a Champ Mechanocore amplifier trinket in my bags that I replaced the Sephorium pacemaker with since the amplifier is best in slot. I'm hoping I can get lucky in the vault this week or through delves and get a heroic or possibly even mythic track version of that. But either way, I'm just very happy with my gear progression this season. I've gotten tons of gear and have geared up much faster than I have pretty much in the last few expansions. And it is very exciting to see that gear progression and feel things get easier and see myself climbing on the charts. With Fury pretty much all geared out, I'm going to start checking out some of the arms best in slot gear and see if I can get a set going for that and try that in Mythic Plus, because I think that is the best warrior spec at the moment, and then hopefully I can play that before it gets nerfed below Fury again. Apart from that, I didn't really do a whole lot else. I did delves, which I ran a lot of this week. I had a few 11s and then just 8s for completion. At this point, I'm mainly running to collect Undercoin for vendor purchases, for brand levels, and for achievements. Once I get Brand to 80 is when I think I'll try the underpin again. I was watching some videos on it last week, and it was mostly just positioning that I took away from those, and there wasn't really any other sort of trick or some aha moments that I had like with Zekvir when I watched those videos. I'm also seeing a lot of posts on Reddit complaining about that fight, which I'm just crossing my fingers that Blizzard nerfs it somehow so that by the time I get to it, it's easier, because that would be awesome. This week there were no new mounts, but I was able to get 120 more achievement points, and I'm ending the week at 45,010. I finally cracked that 45k, which is just so crazy to me because I think it was when War Within came out, I had like 40 or almost 40,000 achievement points. And my realistic goal for the expansion was to end with at least 42,000. And I said that if I can get to 45k, that's cool, but that is such a far-fetched, far-off dream that it's not going to happen. But if it did, that'd be sick. And here I am, not even a year later, at 45k. I think my new goal for this expansion, since I do need one, I'm going to try and see if I can at some point before midnight comes out be in the top 1,000 for players in achievement points. As I'm making this video, I think I need something like 800 more points to get to number 1,000, but that is going to continue growing. So I imagine that by the time I get close to that, it'll be over 46k. So I definitely think that that is going to be a much more difficult task than it was getting to 45k. So we'll see if I get there. If I do, great. If not, that'll be my goal for next expansion, but I probably going to need to start working on some professions and PvP stuff because the other tabs are pretty much capped out almost. So that's where I'll get the most points. So we'll see. But the achievements that I did get, I started off by finally getting the Darkmoon Dominator achievement. This is to collect 12 of the Darkmoon PvP trinkets. I've been sitting at 6 for like the past 3 expansions, and every time I would go in there, someone else would be in there and then just destroy me and get the trinket themselves. So I finally went back and I actually made a notification on my phone to alert me every 3 hours when the event is up because I kept forgetting. So I went in and there was no one else there. I was able to get the last 6 I needed and finally finish that off. And that was the last achievement that I needed in the Darkmoon Fair tab. So that is 100% now. And then the remaining achievements were all just pet battle stuff. I started by getting the Shadows Revealed achievement, which is just to complete all the pet dungeons without healing or reviving. I only had Stratholme and BRD left. And then I thought I was recording, but I guess I didn't. Within Stratholme, there's another achievement to defeat Postmaster Malone, so I did that as well. And then lastly, I was able to get the Family Familiar achievement, which is just to complete 12 Pet Masters in Legion with the different families. That one is the most annoying of the ones I've done so far because the Pet Masters are only up when their respective world quests are up. So I've been working on that for a couple weeks, finally have that done, and the only thing I have left now is just Shadowlands. Once I'm done Shadowlands, I have done all of the family battle or whatever they're called achievements. In other news, this past week I finished watching season 1 of Big Mouth and a couple episodes in season 2. And this is a show that multiple people in my life, like I need 2 hands to count them all, they've told me that I would love this show, that when they saw this, they immediately thought of me and they were like, oh my god, you have to watch this. This was made for you. I've been putting it off for a while and I finally went to watch it, and I don't know why they said that. It's a very crass and crude type of humor that isn't really for me. It's about these prepubescent teens going through puberty and they're puberty monsters, and there's just a lot of just stuff that I didn't enjoy at all. And like that's one thing, but what does that say about me? Like what vibe am I putting out that people thought that this would be a show for me? Honestly, I feel a little bit weird because I don't think my sense of humor is like that. So I've been going through like this weird introspection on myself, trying to figure out what is wrong with me, or like what am I doing? Like what is? From there, just really quickly want to mention that this weekend is WrestleMania, Saturday and Sunday. It is the Super Bowl of wrestling, and I'm so excited about it. If you like wrestling, you already know about it. If you're kind of in and out, now is the time to watch because there's some really cool storylines culminating this weekend. But that is everything that happened to me last week and all the things that I wanted to talk about. Let me know what's going on in your world, what you did IRL, in-game, what you're watching, what you're playing. Anything and everything, I would love to hear about it. If we're just 2 buddies catching up, talking about WoW, and you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you're not already, just subscribe, just do it. Don't be cringe. If you're looking for something else of mine to watch, I posted a video back in December talking about the month I spent playing the game without any add-ons. It wasn't as bad as I thought, but it was also as bad as I thought. If you want to see what that was like and see what my thoughts were, click the video that's on screen now. Thanks for watching. I love you lots. I'll talk at you next week. Bye.